All right, Lilian, Gideon, thank you very much for taking your time to talk about battery recycling and closing the loop of our industry. A very vital point. I want to talk about this in depth, but before we go into this, how did you find into the field of batteries?
Mm. Well, as a researcher, I wanted to dive into recycling metallurgy, knowing that the extraction of raw materials is a big impact on our global, environmental footprint.
Hmm.
And therefore, I really wanted to understand how I could contribute to a better circular economy
Hmm.
by recycling batteries.
Hmm. Okay, Gideon, how about you?
Yeah, for me it was I'm I'm a person very interested in, I would say, the broader economy, the broader society, etc. So energy transition was very important for me last 10 to the last 10 years basically.
Hmm.
And when I met Lilian, she was so deep in metallurgy, she was so deep in recycling, and through her I understood the importance of recycling of the raw materials to the energy transition. I mean, today it's super obvious, but it wasn't like in 2015, 2016-ish. So that helped me a lot and helped me a lot to spark that interest for the topic and then also drive the company within that topic.
Okay, so how did what was this funding moment of Cylib? Like, when did it all start? So you were at uni. I saw in your presentation that
Yeah.
you kind of had a team and you were thinking around already. But when was the decision to really start a business in Germany?
Mm. So basically, it was still in the lab with the other co-founder of us, Paul,
Hmm.
who was also my fellow PhD colleague. And I was like one night with him in the lab, and everything worked super smoothly. You have those lab days. You also have lab days where nothing works, but this
Of
was a
course.
good lab day. And we thought about like, hey, why don't industry partners do it this and that way,
Hmm.
so that we were kind of motivated by the process to dare bring our innovation in the market by ourselves.
Hmm.
Like, we weren't really satisfied by the processes which were there.
Hmm.
We had very cool processes in lab and thought we should change
Okay.
that. It started in lab, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess then it became the broader topic that we jointly had to understand. Is there a business behind it? Is it
Hmm.
just a technical innovation, the coolest technological innovation ever without a real world application? Um, but then we did also the homework within that field to understand what's the business case behind, what is what we need to make it successful.
Yeah, and especially for battery recycling, because it's quite a projection already for battery production to assume like, okay, what will the market be once those gigafactories or production lines are ready? But then for recycling, it's even longer. Like you have to estimate like what is the usage time, what is the second life battery market, like how many cycles does it do it, and what is the tonnage that you will then really have for recycling in the end, right? That's a projection a couple of years into the future. So I assume that you came up with a positive answer, right?
Yeah,
For the market.
I mean, when we looked at it for the first time, it was in 2021, 2022.
Mm.
If you looked at lithium prices during that time, the business case was a no-brainer. Lithium price was nearly 10 times as high as today. So initially, it looked too good to be true. Um, it was too good to be true.
Yes.
Business case works still today, but obviously margins shrinked a bit. But I guess besides the business case, it became more and more clearer how important it is to structure your business with your partners, to structure your interfaces, because the value chain is such a complex and such an interconnected value chain,
Hmm.
and you have to understand who can bring value to the chain and who not at which stage. So building that case is still, I would say, evolving since chemistries are evolving, partners are evolving,
Hmm.
and also the political landscape is evolving.
Hmm. Before we come to this entrepreneurial point and how you maneuver at the moment, let's segue over to the key innovation and highlight the key competence that Cylib builds up or built up and now offers to our industry. So can you give us again an elevator pitch on that?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, we are a deep tech company. So, we spent many years in research and had the time to dive really deep into all the process steps. Therefore, for us, it was clear that we are building an end-to-end battery recycling process. What does that mean? End-to-end is like a very broad word, but for us, this means that we can take up battery packs and really sell out like the raw materials in a separate form and in a pure form. And with being able to treat packs, we can also treat modules or production scraps or whatever like there is, and bring this to the same raw material with a constant quality. And within this end-to-end process, we have several steps to go, like mechanical, thermal, and hydrometallurgical steps. And our core IP is actually within the combination of a thermal pretreatment in combination with a clean hydrometallurgy, where we get back lithium and graphite just with water. And this is super innovative because it reduces the chemicals needed, therefore is economically more viable, but also it goes without saying greener. And this makes our like process quite strong.
Yeah. Does that also already include the refining process to make this recycled material battery grade material again, or is this another process that is added onto the production chain or process chain?
Technically, it's possible.
Okay.
However, it's always a matter of margin delta to get from technical grade to battery grade. It has to make sense within the market, not only in margins, but also with partners. Like, how does the value chain in Europe look? Would there be off-takers for battery grade products within Europe or not? So it's in our like growth roadmap included, but we're not doing it right away.
Okay, I understand. Yeah, fair point. So how are you scaling this now? I saw that you have the pilot plant in Aachen, right? Where you also emphasize the importance of flexibility on really understanding, okay, what are the better materials that are coming up right now, and also those who are coming up in the next years. But now you're moving a little bit out of Aachen to another city, Dormagen, right? To the chem park there. So can you explain this move now there and what motivates this?
Yeah, I mean, the move to Dormagen was obviously not by accident. Being in Aachen is perfectly right for the phase when we founded the company. We needed creative people, we needed researchers, we needed people who had the spirit to bring the technology that was already validated in lab to a pilot scale and validated there. But going the next step, going to industrial size, going to input of 10,000 tons per year, 10,000 tons of black mass, that equals right around 30,000 tons of packs, that equals right around 60 to 70,000 tons EVs per year. This is like large scale. So you need to have, on the one hand, a professional environment like the Chem Park Dormagen brings. You have a lot of experience from chemical industry there, Bayer, Covestro, etc. So all those skilled workforce. It gives you also that professional professional environment in terms of having infrastructure there for scaling your facility. And then obviously you have to bring that together within the company. So you have to bring in talent into the company who has done such things before. So people who build plants, people who plant facilities, people who run large-scale operations. And this is what we did basically the last year, bringing in so much talented and experienced workforce to make that work.
Okay. You're doing that in Germany. And what I hear often on this expedition, and why I built this expedition for the one, is to show off the competence that is out there and communicate that towards especially also political stakeholders and investors. But the question is, are you pleased with the way it works? Hashtag bureaucracy. Would you say it's feasible to do it in Germany? And can you share a little bit on this trajectory that you're on right now and the puzzles that you have to solve in order to build? I mean, it's a chemical plant, right? This is not easy, and in the first place, because I think the requirements, the regulations are there, especially in the chemical sector.
Yeah.
So is Germany supportive in that regard? Is it possible? And
So, I mean, of course, we are in a challenging environment when it comes to tariffs, salaries, and so on, right? in comparison to other countries, probably.
Yes.
And also, we've seen with our pilot line that the permitting of this test line wasn't super easy because the authorities have no experience on what we are doing because it's still folk. So that's a challenge. But when it comes to scaling, we have had super good experiences in permitting progress. The authorities are very supportive and are actually, quite happy that we are settling in Dormagen because they said, we are the waste management department. And finally, this is really cool waste management because you're doing something good. You're like closing
Yes.
the loop.
Yes.
So they are super supportive at that end. And quite recently, we announced that we are receiving a grant from the federal country of North Rhine-Westphalia in cooperation with the European Union for more than 26 million euros in order to support the first step of a industrial recycling line. And I think this is something which is meaningful for us, as we are in a international competition with the US, with Asia, where there are a lot of supplements and funds and grants coming in, that we are also able to mobilize grants in Germany. And so I would say Germany is a good country to scale, apart from the, let's say, more costly OPEX in salaries and so on. But I think our experiences are quite good here.
Yeah, and I would also put a second perspective on that. I mean, going back to what Lilian said, having that research angle, having that strong funding. I mean, Lilian built together with Professor Friedrich a research group of, at the end, 16 researchers or so. Having that funding, having that strong backbone in German research really enables us to be the leading company in Europe today. I mean, this is not right for every sector of the battery value chain, and it's also obviously true that in a lot of Asian countries, especially China, there went even more public money into research, but still we are pretty good in research in Germany, and I think that is something that we have to acknowledge and that we have to use as foundation for the next scaling steps. But obviously, as Lilian said, the political framework then has to be right in terms of permissions, in terms of energy cost, in terms of labor cost, in terms of complexity, etc. But we have a strong foundation here.
Okay. Yeah, and that is to be emphasized, and that is why I'm building this campaign right now to showcase this competence. But it's not easy, as I also learned on this tour. And that leads me over to the 3 questions I ask every participant of this format in order to get the multi-perspectives on this matter. So let's start off with a negative point, the challenges that you see from your perspective holding us back on really building the European battery ecosystem. So which points in bullets would you bring up that really need to work on in Europe?
So I think one important pillar and hurdle is the access to capital. We do have a lot of private capital here in Europe. It's just the question, do we dare to invest into young companies, into growing companies, or do we only invest into existing corporates? And I think this is something where we have to become better to be competitive in the international comparison. I think this is one super important part of our growth, because we are building up hardware. You need a lot of capital to do that.
Certainly, yes.
And you have to be persistent. And I think that is something where the political framework is not as clear as it is, for example, elsewhere. When deciding to electrify mobility, when deciding to electrify basically everything at some point, you know that you set everything for the future, but that will bring an effort to you, to the economy, to the companies, and you have to be very durable with that. And we tend to try to use shortcuts. We as Europe tend to search for the easy way, and being on that track for 5 years, for 10 years until being successful, that is what is a challenge for us in terms of mindset, in terms of politics, etc. And that really holds us a little bit down in being successful currently.
And
Yeah.
also maybe connected to that, the regulations have to really be executed from a European level, which is translated into a national German level. Like we have to plan with the regulation coming in. Let's talk about black mass export regulation, for example. This is on the plate. The European Commission is debating on that. And a
With
lot
that,
of
you mean to prohibit the export of black mass out of
exactly
Europe, right?
exactly yeah, which would help our business a lot because we built up refining capacities, and so we are asked a lot how probable is that this law is really becoming into execution. And I think we need to have clear answers on that, so a very consistent policy and regulations roadmap.
Gotcha. On the positive end, what do you see Europe is special about? What is the hope that our ecosystem can give our industry?
First of all, I think we have a very dense population and a very skilled population and workforce. We showed that in several sectors in the past. We have strong automotive in Germany. We have strong chemical industry in Germany. All over Europe, we are very industrialized. So we have a lot of know-how on how to build and run facilities. So we have the tools in combination with the strong research backbone that we have. We also have the capital. Europe is still a very rich part of the world. We're just not spending the money the right way. We're just not
I agree with
doing
you.
things with the persistence that you need to be successful. But the tools are there. It is on us. It is on politics to bring those tools together and be successful, because we have everything that you need to be successful ultimately.
Lilian, would you add something?
Well, actually, you said it. I just want to enhance it again because, like, we used to be innovators in Europe. We have such strong companies here, which used to be young companies as well. So there is an entrepreneurial spirit within Europe, which succeeded, brought up a lot of successful companies, and I think we shouldn't forget on that. We should still maintain the belief in our industrial partnerships, because there are so many companies who also want to invest in the battery value chain. This is also why we strongly believe in what we are doing is right, because we want to fill a gap in the closed loop scenario of the battery. And we think that if this works out, then we will have a very strong industry in Europe. If this will not work out, a lot of companies would die. So we are still quite optimistic and believers of the European industry resilience.
And this ecosystem that must be there in order for every participant to flourish.
Yes.
So, final question to both of you. Your call to action. So, if there's one advice that you would give to the stakeholders of our industry, maybe to politics or investors or beyond, what would you give? You can think about this, of course.
Do you want to start or shall I start?
You can start.
Okay. The foundation of European wealth for generations was and is a strong industry. So we have, as society as well as politics, to understand that we need industry in Europe to be also a strong part of the world within the next 10 years. However, building industry takes time. It is in the nature of a facility, of a production process, that you need a little bit time to set it up. It is unfortunately not AI. It is unfortunately not your typical software as a service thing where you can build and iterate and fail fast. But the backbone of why we as Europe are where we are today is industry. And this is where we as Europe are good at. So we as Europe, we as Germany, we as society, we as also politics, and we as industry, we need to understand transforming ourselves will take time and it will cost money. And we have to be willing to invest both to be successful. But if we do so, we will be successful.
Okay.
I also see it from a technological point of view. There is a superordinate technology, a technology which is better than others, right? So with batteries, we know for sure that it works efficiently, and that we are betting on the right horse. And we shouldn't forget on that, that there is a clear answer from science, from technological point of view, that the lithium-ion battery is the right technology to bet on for the next years. And so it's our responsibility as industry and also our mandate as active citizens to keep our resources responsibly, to really don't lose time on thinking about old technologies, but to fully go full steam in the technology which will win. Keep it.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you, both points you made, and I think my answer to this is let's form a uniform voice, but with scientific integrity, right? Not on the media level, but an honest, objective perspective on the competence and potential that is out there. So thank you for outlining your perspectives from Cylib. I'm looking forward to see the pilot line, but also what you built in Dormagen very soon. And yeah, thank you very much for the conversation, Gideon.
Thanks for having us.